Welcome back to the After 406 podcast. I'm your host, Deveri Henao, and today we're talking Kina, culture, and compounding wealth. Why is saving so hard in Papua New Guinea? Why does your entire fortnight feel like it's already spent before you even swipe that card? In this episode, I'm joined by two powerhouse minds, Felix Kipalan and Samson Narokobi, as we unpack real-life strategies to build personal wealth, beat inflation, and invest smart without needing a fat paycheck. This isn't financial theory, it's lived experience. From superannuation hacks to stock market plays, these guys have walked the talk. You'd want to hear this one. When we last spoke, we started exploring how acquiring stock was safe and at times stable way to have extra cash. And Samson brilliantly connected that with inflation, that this is a sort of extra cash that will fight inflation. And both of you offered the growth of several public listed companies, their trajectory, which given time doubled in value, such as BSB and New Britain Palm Oil. But there is always risk whether what is considered a good investment is actually a good investment. The global financial crisis gave us a preview where the entire value chain collapsed and was fraught with speculation and in some cases just downright theft. And that nearly destroyed the global financial system. Of course, there's a flip side to this, and that's the opportunities that'll bring the rewards. So it's a double-edged sword, and it is a feature of this sector. And again, to speak more on this, I'm once again delighted to welcome back Felix and Samson. Samson Narokobi and Felix Kipalan have both been actively participating in stock trading and the investment business for over 15 years. They are co-directors of their firm, and they've been passionately advocating for more of our One Talks to diversify their wealth base. Both regularly post their views, tips, and commentaries on LinkedIn and YouTube. And we'll have the links of their show. We'll have a link of those posts in our show notes. And I certainly encourage everyone to check it out. So, Felix, let's get some groundwork established here. Whether it's discovery, risk, or opportunity, the fundamental source is a desire to have a financial plan. So walk us through what that is.
Yeah, so I would say, the answer's in the word itself. So first, it's planning.
Mm-hmm.
So it's to have a personal plan, right? And it's just a financial aspect of your personal plan. So think about it in terms of, what are your goals? What are your vision in terms of yourself? Where are you at in your career, or as a student in your academic life, or just as maybe a parent, with your kids. Where are they? Are they young kids? Are they old kids? It's just planning, really, a personal planning, and being very. A good friend of mine told me, to be intentional, intentional about planning, and being intentional is, sort of being present, being very clear, all those things that you hear with all those life coaches stuff, see on YouTube videos, whatever. Write it down, write it down. What are your 3 goals for the year? It's all of that. It's just being very clear about them. And there's lots of other information out there, but I would say it's planning, but then it's taking a slant which is financial. So then you say to yourself, It's actually something that I learned through after I think Samson shared a clip one time of Warren Buffett saying this. It was the three financial statements, or accounting is the language of finance, and it's understanding your personal financial statement, right? It's to say, here's my situation, here's my cash flow, here's me working a normal job, but I know on a fortnightly basis, here's how much I get every fortnight. So what do I do with that money? How do I plan for it? How do I allocate it? How do I do the budget? What are my goals for the year? Okay, super, pay the tax, invest in the kids' education, those sort of things, right? But I would say it's really, sorry, coffee. It's really that financial part of it to say, here's your income. How do you plan when you get that money? Because if you don't have a plan for that money, someone will come and tell you what the plan is for that money. Someone will say, hey man, I think this is the best utilization of that money, right? But you yourself need to have a plan for it, so that when you get your fortnight, you already know where it needs to go. So I would say, those are sort of some financial, some fundamentals around financial planning, goal setting, and then understanding your financial statement, your personal financial statement. I'll stop there and maybe, go back to Sam or yourself or Do.
Go ahead, Sam.
No, that's basically that sums it up. I mean, it's planning. You go ahead.
So probably, definitely jump in. So probably just to expand that thread a bit, Felix and Samson, why don't we look at three different people in Papua New Guinea that have a range of income earning opportunities, and let's talk about their planning and the very things that you mentioned. So the first one I really want to get into is Table Mama. She's got the betel nut and the smokes that she sells every single day without a heartbeat. Her hours probably 6 in the morning all the way to 10 in the evening. Incredible resilience. Then let's look at the cacao farmer that harvests it and takes it to the market for sales. And then I want to make a comparison to an urbanite that's got 10 days of work until fortnight. All the very things that you mentioned, Felix, got super, taxes, and all those sorts of things. So if we look at those three folks, let's peer into the Table Mama. Again, not stereotyping, but we all know what our aunties and sisters do on a daily basis with the table. So walk me through. Number one, the assumption is she doesn't have regular bank statements. She probably does do banking, but by and large, everything is quite liquid in terms of her cash flow. And I remember years back, and they probably still do it. Guinea Guada had this program where they'll get these A4 exercise books, and they will call it a cash book and start getting them into some sort of ledger appreciation. So Felix, based on what you've mentioned, what will the Table Mama do in terms of interpreting her statement?
Okay, let me qualify. And I'm saying this because I don't want to be, short. Like, let me qualify. With the table, mama. I mean, certainly that isn't. It's been a long time since my mom was a table mama. Let's put it that way. And I was just taking down notes as you were writing, right? Where I can remember she used to tell me when we first went to Moresby, she used to go and sell eggs at Ella Beach just to supplement the income, right? And I remember going with her to Ella Beach in the 80s, selling eggs as well and peanuts and whatnot. So let me just qualify. It's been a long time since that's happened. So I just don't want, go on a high horse and people sort of,
Sure.
So anyway, that's sort of it. But do I have relatives and a lot of sort of people that you support that are table mamas? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're in PNG. You help. So I would say they have a social safety net, and we should acknowledge that. I think we should acknowledge that. How does a table mama survive? I mean, for me, there's sort of three things. She hasn't got a lot of financial cash flow and doesn't have a lot of financial capital to start with. But what she does have, I would say, is a lot of social capital. Your one talks. It's a good thing. So for example, myself, I might, see one of my relos, and I go, oh, okay, maybe, she needs a little bit of a 50 kina here, 100 kina, that'll help her with the stock. And then she can go ahead and sell whatever the goods that she purchases for that 50 kina or that 100 kina. So I think social capital or having that one talk at the back is very important in an urban setting, especially in an urban setting, especially. I would say yes, a little bit in the village setting, but since we're talking about money, it's more so in the urban setting. And then I would say having physical capital or land, right, is for that. Mama am sasalim or something, at the on the street there, she might be able to go to a little garden, or a little garden in her house, at the back of her house, or some of these mothers, they go next to the drain and they even make gardens. Or up on the hills in Moresby, they make gardens. So that mother that's going and being, a bit got some entrepreneurial flair, she's gone and she's got that garden sitting there as well to support. So I'm acknowledging some of this support, if you will, in the background, that social capital, the one talk, as well as land access to be able to garden to supplement her income, household income. So with all of that said, as sort of background and qualifies, I mean, for that mama, it really depends on, it's really, unfortunately, it's like what she sells and what she gets is what she's going to then use to pay for whatever food is for the day or that night, I should say, or like something belong or pickinini. So it's really difficult. It's literally, what do they say, hand to mouth type scenario. And when you're in that scenario, it is so difficult to try to get beyond it. And this is where leaning onto the social network and leaning on to access to land, they're your leverages, I think. If you can pull those levers, it can help you to bring more goods to the table. It can allow you to talk to your one talks a little, to then help you to increase your stock. But then at the end of the day, it then comes back to that mama to say, okay, I've just got this 100 kina from my relatives to increase my stock. What do I do with that extra cash flow? Do I buy some more stock, maintain this new stock level? Do I know my customers, that one person that comes off the bus, stops by my stall, buys my buai or buys my mutrus, my smoke, or buys my coconut or whatever it is? Do I want to increase in terms of this little money that I have or not? So it's a really financial literacy at that level. And it's a difficult level. It really is. It really is a difficult level. Yeah.
Samo?
Each individual, they have to. The most important thing is you're looking to make profit, right? And if it's if you're selling soft drinks or boy anything on the streets, I struggle to I'm struggling to give advice in that area because I don't have that much experience there.
That's okay. That's okay, Samson, because the big thing that I'm grabbing from Felix is diversification. And you can't have that. You can't have that one stream of betel nut. It's saturated or ice blocks. You need to get into gardening, and even in the table mamas, you do see
Diversifying.
FMCG products there, like noodles and cheese pop and things like that. So that diversification is agnostic, whether you are a table mama or an
Yeah.
executive in downtown Moresby. So if we pivot to that other spectrum of a somebody that earns 75,000, 200,000 Kina. I think that's the tax bracket that many middle class Papua New Guineans are in. And based on Sam, what we spoke about previously, that's the section that both of you were in, 15, 20 years ago. That's the section that's the tax. That's the band that both of you were in a couple of years ago, and that's the place where you both started pivoting into diversifying your income base. And so we did spend some time in our last conversation on that journey of really looking at discovering and going in that pathway. I just want to spend some time on how both of you not only discovered, but Felix, what we were speaking of prior to coming on air to the recording was this whole concept of planning, and this is the band that does have monthly BSB statements or credit bank or Kina. So Sam, probably get you involved in this one. When you've got the statement in front of you, your fortnight statement, what's the first couple of things that in your planning process or in your advisory, third party advice that you're getting? What's a sort of couple of things that you stare at when you get the statement?
Oh, you mean like a company statement or your own bank statement?
So both, whether personal or company, you've got it in front of you, and what's the trends that you're looking at, and specifically, it's on expanding that subject that Felix talked about on diversification of your wealth base. What are the core trends you're staring at, or you're trying to find out when you're looking at these statements?
Well, obviously, over time you want to be seeing a trend that you're making money, that you're in the positive, you're in the green, and then leveraging off that, you need to figure out how to make that grow as well, and the best form is invest in it. That's all it boils down to. With whenever I look at the statement, that's you're looking for free cash flow, money that's not you got your money that's set aside for bills and living expenses, and then you want to look at what free cash flow you have to be able to expand on this and further grow it over time.
So,
That's
sorry, Sam. So just define what free cash flow means.
free cash flow is after everything is paid from any loan repayments, any expenses for food, living expenses, after you pay off everything that's in your budget, and then there's leftover money that isn't allocated to anything. That's what free cash flow is, and that's what you're always looking for. And whether you're looking at a company or you're looking at your own budget, that's the free cash flow that you can either go down to the pub and have a beer, or you can invest, and that's where it'll matter the most over a long period.
Right. So just again, recalling our previous conversation, 15 years ago, you guys had free cash flow, and again, your personal story that, guys, instead of getting a carton, let's do something about it. I just want to know that first step on the plan. Like, it obviously got birthed talking about saving the world in someone's backyard. But right there, you guys started setting, the motion into, building this vision that you had. So for those that are listening out there that are probably going to do Saving the World conversation this Friday, what was the dynamics of the group? Did you have broad consensus among your mates that all of you had that same energy, or there were the naysayers and the doubt folks there, or folks were just simply not interested, and that? I just want to know what happened from that backyard white can moment, that what if moment, and just for folks that are out there, what did that energy feel like?
Well, we're all close friends from back in primary school, so we all have a lot of respect and trust for each other, and even if we thought the other guy was a bit nutty, we'll still support and go ahead. So the first thing was like, let's get off the beers and let's make a date next week. Let's meet up, have lunch sober, and then we'll discuss what are the first steps. And then it was as simple as that. Let's just cons 200 Kina initially. We'll just contribute 200 Kina per month. I think the initial amount was something like 500 or 1,000 Kina, and that was the initial amount. And then from there, we just allocated each of us a simple job, like go down to IPA and get the forms to register a company. Someone go down to the bank and get the documents we need to put together to open a company account, and then it was just a matter of us coming together and taking on some little responsibility and having that little commitment of just putting 200 in a month. That's all it really was. Felix, what do you think? I think that's how it started. I can't remember that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It was like 9 years ago. 9 years ago for the first one.
Absolutely. I think the big principle is like, instead of buying a beer, buying that carton, it's like saying opportunity costs here, guys. Really, it does. Before we talk about saving the world, how about we save ourselves? Which is to say, the opportunity does cost, and it's to say, look, fine, Friday come up and you're getting excited about Friday and you really want to, go out and have a few drinks with your mates. And I get it. We all, we're in our 20s, all those stuff, the feelings are there. Yeah, absolutely. But then there's a point in time where you say to yourself, like, if you keep on this trajectory, and it's a personal behavioral thing, right? It's a personal behavioral thing. At the end of the day, you as a person you got to make that decision to say, look, if I stick on this path that I'm going with every Fridays, yep, it's going to lead me down this direction. But if I change my behavior through help and through, associating with good friends, and I have to say, one of the big things that I've seen personally from my friends is there's at least 4 of us in the group that don't drink beer anymore. Yeah.
Oh.
Right. So it's getting there. It's taken some time, but the conversations, the journey, it's getting there. And it's about, as you said, Samuel, it's like trust, respect. It's going on that lifelong journey. And I've got to say, yeah, like at least 3 or 4 of us. Yep, definitely 4 of us that have since then stopped drinking, and instead of putting the $200 there, we've sort of said, well, let's allocate this somewhere else and put it to good use. So I would say, yeah, just to compliment what Samuel was saying. Can I just finish off with your first question to Samuel, which was when you get the pay slip? I just want to sort of contribute to that question as well. For me, when I got the pay slip, it comes back to the last episode where I said, you need to automate this. So that superannuation deduction is probably the low-hanging fruit, the most important thing you could do. Like max out on your contribution. Just max it out, right? And then at least that money's gone into your super and it's deducted by payroll. And then what you have left over then goes into your, priority expenditure, food, rent, school fee, whatever that is that is priority, it goes into that. But as it relates to savings and investments, the first thing any Papua New Guinean that's in that group that you mentioned that are urban, working, that earn that 75 to 200,000 is just fill in that payroll, fill in that slip. Just go to HR, fill that slip in. Don't think about it. Just fill it in. Ask HR, what's the max amount? Your employer contributes. What can you max out in terms of, salary sacrificing? Max it out. Just do that. And then, of course, once you've done that, you'll start to read your superannuation annual reports to understand what a balanced portfolio looks like, what they're doing with their money. You'll appreciate that interest that they've returned from investing for you, and that'll get you on that journey to start to really appreciate investing. When you start to first focus on your super is your first investment portfolio. It really is. And if you get that right, then you learn from your super and you build on other areas. So, first principle, automate it, get it into super, understand your super, read it, see what they're investing in, and educate yourself in that space with your super portfolio.
Yeah. Look, 3 big things that I can source from our conversation now. Number 1, the conversions of, social to something serious and worthwhile, which is what I'm fascinated about, that that what if moment that happened, and you urgently followed it up in a sober environment to do all those things that you mentioned, Sam. And Felix, look, that's actually a very, very significant point, that without knowing, your first portfolio investment is the super. And And that is a really, really good tip for everyone out there. That without knowing anything about stocks, anything about investment, wealth funds, here it is. Here's something I can back. So I just want to start getting into the risk opportunities conversation. So let's start off with risk. And when I hear both of you, the adjective that's in front of risk is measured risk. I get a sense that there's a lot of stability in making these decisions on risk. But probably just to put some context about everybody that's listening. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've seen so many movies about the evils of Wall Street, the stock market. In fact, in the studio, I'm kind of scanning around, and there's a DVD there, Billions, and it's an amazing show that American Showtime presents. I think it's in its 8th or 9th season. But you watch movies like Big Shot, which is based on a true story, or even Wall Street with Shia LaBeouf, the current, well, the previous one with Michael Douglas, and then those documentaries of Bernie Madoff and the sins he did, and the lifestyle of Jordan Belfort. There's nothing about your fan Samson.
Buffett,
Warren Buffett.
because it's so boring. They would never be able to make something that anyone would sit through. But
yeah, but I mean, these are the sorts of things that are super exaggerated, and obviously probably it's because Hollywood and the left love trashing, rich people, but these exaggerative narratives and even the creative licenses that Hollywood push. Many of us have built up this almost white cell resilience against anything stock market related. But risk is there, and it'll always be there when it comes to money, and we need to be measured. A big thing that I've also heard from both of you in our past conversations, and even today, that there is tons and tons of information that tells you what's right and what's wrong. Felix just mentioned a couple of minutes ago on annual reports as a reference point. So with all of this trove of information, there's a risk attached to it, and the exaggeration of Hollywood. Tell us at a pragmatic level, how do you navigate the content that's out there to arrive at this measured risk island or spot? Completely agree. Probably super boring that what our
but
friend
works.
yes, but it works. What Warren Buffett does, but it works. And I get a sense from hearing both of you as disciples of Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
The boring stuff works.
Yeah.
So yeah, just take us through, Sam, on that.
That's why it'd be hard to make a movie on him, because you got to go to his biography to read how he started, and it was when he was 6-7 years old. He would get Coke bottles and go and sell Coke bottles, or he'll get the Wrigley's chewing gum and resell them. He'd sell them on the beaches, and that was literally the seed money that he started with, that he kept compounding over time. So that's the safest, easiest way to do any of this, but it doesn't tell an exciting story. But but these movies that you're talking about, these are like, they're usually around recession times. These are when the serious stuff happens in the financial markets across the world. But fortunately enough, with PNG X especially, we're insulated from all of that. We're in our own little bubble, and we're not affected by macro events outside. So there's not that, we don't have to worry too much about those issues. But there are different sectors in the industries that we always have to think about, because they're not all made equally, because there's things like, when you think about the different companies that are available on the PNGX right now, there's financial companies, there's the retail companies, there's commodities, and there are high risk when you're not thinking about a specific sector at a high level. Because if you're just investing because a stock is cheap, like Airlines PNG, that was selling for really cheap at one stage, and it just came on. There was a bit of hype at the time. I remember Airlines PNG, but I mean, I've been in the aviation. I am in the aviation world, so I know aviation is not it's not the best business out there. You read about how Richard Branson goes on about how to become a millionaire. You become a billionaire first, and then you become a millionaire, owning an airline like Virgin Blue, Virgin Atlantic, the big companies. But so you got to look at the sectors of each of these industries. We all know that there's been FX problems in the country, and how inflation has been shooting up. So naturally, there's going to be challenges for companies that retail stores. So City Pharmacy was one that got hit quite badly, and these are risks that you have to be able to understand. But the best thing is, we as Papua New Guineans, we deal with all these companies all the time, so we can see what's in front of us, and what's actually a fundamentally strong company, and what's something that may be a little bit not stable. We know people are looting City Pharmacy. They're not going to be, most probably not going to have a good year that year. So they are constantly having challenges, especially with FX issues, with bringing in goods and trying to sell at a profit. So these are risk factors. I'm talking about how to understand the PNG market. What you see in the movies is it just makes a good story. But we are in our own world, as a bubble, like I said earlier. But also the best thing about it is we can also take advantage of those opportunities as well. That's when we want to be investing in international companies as well. So when there's those big recessions, we know we should be understanding companies that are going to be around for a long time, and take full advantage of them when they're at the lowest. So generally,
Sam, just want to jump in. Sorry, I just want to jump in on two things that you highlighted. So the first one is, we're on our own. We weren't dramatically impacted by the global financial crisis or the recessions.
Yeah.
And even to some extent, when I look back at the COVID experience, we were one of the first countries that reopened the shops, ironically.
Yeah.
And having personally, spent spent a fair bit of my time in that national COVID center when the market closed, and then when the market started opening up a couple of weeks, a month later, based on the badgering that we were saying. I did get a sense that, and again, I'm purely speaking on. I was just going to say that I got a sense of that the isolation slash small slash probably not fully integrated in the global financial and trading systems, that in a way was our protection. Certainly wasn't any form of miraculous Milton Friedman economics that made us prevail or something along those lines. But I guess I just want to spend a fair bit of time on this because the big messages that you're hearing coming out of the documentaries and even those movies is everybody that was meant to tell you that the stock is excellent, that there is stability, Moody's, all of them. It was absolutely hollowed out, and when more money was being pushed into it, it was all a fraud, and then you had the usual governmental slackness on whether it was the SEC or other entities in the American regulatory system that was completely hollowed out again. That these detections wasn't identified. Or even the FBI. So when you hear and you watch and the narrative around the reasons why things went horribly bad was the people that were meant to be doing the oversight, they weren't doing their jobs. And I guess that's where I'm just trying to push it into the PNG lens. We do have a Securities Commission. So we've got our own version of, I think, the SEC here. We've got professional bodies, accounting firms that obviously sign off and say the numbers are real in their AGMs. And again, just a couple of days ago, when BSP had their AGM, they declared the 1 billion Kina profit line. So you've got all of these sorts of similar types of entities that are meant to tell you that facts are facts, what you're reading, what you're consuming is real, and then as a consumer, absolutely. When you're at Jackson's Airport and you see Air New Guinea versus Airlines PNG, you kind of get that feel that okay, probably. The big lines kind of tell you that something's happening right on one end compared to the other. Yeah. But I don't want to get about lines in Air New Guinea because that's a whole new show. But
can I just jump in on risk?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
So look, for me, it's purely from a business corporate perspective. So I learned this from doing ISO 14001, which is the International Standards of Organization, and they have a suite of standards out there globally. These are voluntary standards, and there's a risk management standard as well. And the way it defines is this: risk is something that can, and it's crude definition here. Risk is something, right, that can impact on your objectives in its simplest. So it's an event or something that really has an impact on your objectives. So I would say, if you go back to the last, comments I made, be very clear about your objectives. And then once you're clear about your objectives, you can understand the risk to your objectives better. That's that. I just wanted to make that connection between risk and objectives. So if you have a clear set of objectives, understanding risk becomes easier. And I'm saying easier. I'm not saying it's easy. So it's really being clear on your objectives. If you don't know your objectives, then anything can be a risk. you know, whether it's a most investors in PNG that don't know PNG might go, oh, it's a risky jurisdiction. Well, what are your objectives? What are your objectives? What's your risk appetite? Is that a jurisdiction you want to throw capital at? And that's from a corporate lens. But then if you go back to the third stakeholder group, though, that you're talking about that earn 75,000 to 200,000, if they're clear on their objectives, then they can have a measured approach to the risk. What is it that's going to impact their objectives? Right? It's the same principle. Understanding that risk is anything, event, etc., that can impact on your objectives allows you to have a measured approach to assessing risk. Otherwise, you're going to be like that. What is that fable? Huh? The sky is falling down. The sky is falling down. You think the whole world's, when you don't really appreciate your objectives. First, to assess your risk against your objectives. So I just wanted to sort of add to the question around risk. And then the second part I just wanted to touch a little bit on is, again, thinking of the audience here, what is it that insulates the PNG market? What is it? And you two talked about those big structural things, the integration into the global economy. I would say at an individual level, 97% of the land belongs to a Papua New Guinean. And they're all in the village. They're not connected to the global economy. Sure, over time they might be, yeah, absolutely, but the majority of Papua New Guineans are not. Their land isn't being mobilized to participate in the broader global economy yet. So I would say that asset base that they are born with, and from a financial lens, it's an asset that they're born with. It's insulated, it's protected. It's not a security that you go to the bank and it's a bankable security. It insulates them. If something happens to BSB, something happens to Kina Bank, your land title is not a bankable security and therefore it's not at risk because the commercial bank holds it, right? So you've got that insulation that you're, as a Papua New Guinean, born with. That's traditional land, right? The second thing I would say is you as an individual, and I think I just wanted to emphasize this, that it's not lost anywhere. And it's something that Warren Buffett and a lot of these really good sort of investors say is you've got to invest in yourself. You really do. Like you're the enabler for everything else. And so you might not be born with land. Let's assume there's someone that's born in an urban setting in PNG and not grand blingem, or someone says you're not grand Uwaira, or someone says your urban shift drifted here and you're second, third generation. All right, fine. Well, you yourself are an asset, and so you yourself, if you have a set of goals, then you can assess your risk against the goal, right? You as an asset.
Yeah.
The land as an asset, what are the risks against the land? You know what I mean? So my lens is like, what are the assets it has? What are the risks in terms of objectives to mobilize that particular asset?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely agree to the ISO standards on wrapping around someone's actually doing risk profile. Someone's actually saying in that company, in that enterprise, these are the proof that we're actually doing these things. And obviously, audit reports will see the resilience of that, risk capability. And that's a solid takeaway here. I just want to get some reaction from you, Sam, and we're kind of reaching that 10 a.m. mark where Brooke is kind of pointing the gun in my head. So I just want to get a reaction from you. What's PNG's version of Moody's? What's and its the Securities Commission is what we have right now. Do you tune into those sets of information
Yeah,
that talk
PNG
about the enterprise? And yeah, just wanting to know what. Yeah.
PNGX is the regulatory body for the public markets. So they have all the rules in place for all these public companies, and they monitor the public companies and how they carry out their business. And there was even that the case recently, was it last year? Credit Corp um, announced that they were becoming a bank, and they didn't go down the right path to announce it, and it became an issue, and they had to take they had to freeze the stock, and they couldn't trade on it for a certain period because they didn't follow the correct path to for an announcement that's as big as that. So they're like they're regulatory bodies for the public market, and then each annual report, all the balance sheets, financials, they're all looked at by these audit companies, and they're signed off as we all know, and then that's how you also tell that these companies are in order. So that's what we go off, and it's very reliable, and we could base a lot of investment on that, and then so when we see a company like City Pharmacy or Airlines PNG not making any money, and they've signed off on it that the company's not making any money, then we can read through the statements and say that's probably not a good investment. So we should probably think about something. Oh, Cocoa is doing really well recently, and then there's Eggmark that's screaming with high dividends, and so that's how you assess these companies, and then that's how you mitigate the risks. You know these companies are stable and they're doing well. You put a bit more of your investment into something like that. Whereas it's companies like City Pharmacy or Airlines PNG, if it is in your portfolio, you'd reduce it to a small section of your portfolio.
So probably just some quick observations I've noted these past couple of days. Number one, everyone's excited about the announcement of BSP, and if you remember last year, there was all these major questions that it's been Fijianized, it's been ripped out of PNG's hands, and I remember, Samson, you were making those corrections that it hasn't been. It's an old list. This is what the new list looks like.
Yeah.
Now the CEO and I think chairman made it very clear that this is a PNG outfit majority, and so I found that sort of narrative interesting. But it comes to my second point on the power of social media, and again, just a couple of days ago, or probably yesterday, Agmark came out very strong on the social media, saying that false misinformation by Post Courier that farmers are not getting paid. Again, it's almost going back to what I mentioned earlier. There's just millions of self-checking happening, and even physically going to the shops and seeing whether the performance goes. Retailers, for example, CPL you mentioned, and probably the last observation I also just wanted to make is the organizations like JMP Securities are throwing out some really quality information about
100%.
About these different public stocks. I mean, big shout out to Lars and Nathan. All that graph that they show, I know it takes a fair bit of steam putting these things together, but it for those that are keenly observing and watching this and trading in this, it's a very useful tool, and probably, it'll be good to probably get Lars in here and interrogate some of those things that he's kicking around. But I guess is on everyone to entertain this idea of this space of getting into, purchasing of stocks and all, to really understand it and look at those asset portfolios that you have, and you want to entertain it and plan around that. But yeah, Felix, any last words before we wrap up?
Yeah, look, I think one of the key things to take away out of this is you have to, and this is something from Warren Buffett. It's not like Mr. Market will come to you with various offers. So the stock market will come to you and say, hey, this is a fantastic, business that you should buy. And this is, trading at this. So what Samuel and us, what we try to do is it's not about trading, and it's not about stocks. It's about a business. You're buying a piece of a business. So I want our listeners to appreciate that we're not talking about trading on the stock market. We're actually talking about some fundamentals, which is actually you're trying to buy a piece of a business. And those two, it's important distinction that, Warren Buffett, his mentor, tried to emphasize. It's not a quick money scheme. It's not a whatever today's, media announcements results in a low stock price that you go running to Mr. Market. It's not trading. It's investing. And I think it's important to appreciate that there is very much a clear line and a separation between trading on the stock market and whatever Mr. Market comes to you with, and actually investing in a business and buying a piece of that business and owning a piece of that business. So there's a fundamental difference between that and this. And so, you'll be presented with various numbers and figures, but at the end of the day, you're actually buying a piece of the business. So I just wanted to sort of, just that distinction around we're investing and buying a piece of business as opposed to trading.
Yeah, awesome. Gents, thank you. I'm really enjoying these chats. We didn't get into the opportunity side, and I'm kind of glad we didn't, because that whole planning risk conversation needed to have some spotlight today. So just looking towards next week, and again, sticking to what Felix mentioned in the chats yesterday, we did the whole discovery last episode. We really got into the big picture macro stuff on people that are out there that would benefit from engaging in this. And then today we went a bit deeper in saying, now that you know that that sort of white can moment where, okay, you got all of this, it's a pretty good thing you got going. Now what do you do next with it? So we went into the whole planning discussion, the how you arrive there. But now that you're planning it, you obviously had this enigma around you that, this is really gangbusters, crazy stuff. So we got over that risk conversation and keeping it real. Boring is beautiful sort of this conversation. I think that's setting us up well for and Sam, if this is okay with you, you don't need to indicate that you guys are into this, but I think it'll be really good if we did an international conversation about a stock that you've observed. So whether it's Google or Tesla, that it's had this trajectory, and this is what the Papua New Guinea needs to break out of. Don't just be comfortable with New Britain palm oil and BSP. And then we I'm if it's okay, apart from the opportunities, I don't know if this is something you guys are willing to share, but what has that extra cash done for you guys at a personal level? Because I do want to steer it back to say that all of these things that we've spoken about, at the end of the day, you and your family have benefited, and these are the sorts of things that really circle it off in the fact that in and amongst all of this 6.5% or 10% inflation, cost of living skyrocketed high, but we've done these things and we're prevailing in this storm. We're riding in this storm, and we're not tipping over. Is that okay for both of you to go down that route?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, sweet. What I was thinking of was I've got Moses lined up. So he comes in with the macro stuff, and we can have an exchange with him on him telling us that the market looks like this, and then set up a dialogue between his version of the market and where the wealth could happen. I'm kind of thinking big subjects like unlocking the land could create more wealth, which is what Felix identified earlier. And what's the macroeconomy perspective of unlocking it? But what would be the market's perspective on what that unlocking would look like? So getting some healthy tensions on his macro view, your micro view, and then the pragmatic side of it. Kina has that sort of stuff. All right, gents. I need to. It's crazy. I actually have 4 interviews happening this whole day. So, wish me luck. It's going to be Felix. It's going to be PNG politics. So I've got Martin Nimorong and Thierry Lapani